right the way from the middle of the week all the way through to the men's elite road race, women's elite road race, under 23s, time trials, the whole lot. We'll be bringing you absolutely everything. Myself, David Duffield, Russell Williams, Sean Kelly, a host of rider interviews, team personnel interviews, people in the commentary box. We're on air for quite a long time in the last couple of days, and expect to hear an awful lot of stuff and a flavour of Madrid as well. Having heard Alicia Marino on British Eurosport, I'm not going to Madrid without getting out in the evenings and enjoying it, and I don't think any of the rest of us will. Well, I'm going to be with David Duffield. What else can you do?
As we see Isabella, they're going through 3 kilometers to go, 19 seconds. I don't think he's going to bridge that gap now, because unless they really start playing about up front. And the interesting one here, of course, you know, with the riders we have, there's Horsler from Gerolstein and Elmiger, Fuentes, Lamprey, those teams, they haven't won a stage yet, so it's the Comunidad de Valenciano, Latas's team. They of course, you know, won 2 stages, so an interesting one for this, and maybe make the race for one of those riders and one of those teams who haven't won a stage.
2 kilometers to go then for the leading, well, under 2 kilometers to go for the leading riders. Thabalia working very hard to try and get back on it, and I think for those people who've never ridden in a group at all, it's very difficult to realize how much more difficult it is to work by yourself to catch these guys rather than sitting in here in a group of 4 or 5. Really is a huge difference, Sean, isn't there?
Yes, it makes a huge difference, and as you go to the end of the stage, and in a race, where you've been on it for 3 weeks almost, the body is getting tired, and you really have to be really in good shape to be able to close down a gap like this against 4 riders, because they are working quite well together. And when they attack like this sudden acceleration, of course, it brings up the speed again, and it's really difficult for a rider to come back in the last 5 kilometers. And when he went away there, it was about 18 seconds, and he hasn't really eaten into that time gap at all.
Well, it's Juan Manuel Fuentes who's taken the jump first. We said he's a nippy little rider and likes to jump out and attack. They're all winding up, about 500, 600 meters to go now. I'd watch out for the man in the light blue, Heinrich Hausler. He's right at the back. They've still got to close down Juan Manuel Fuentes, though. Lamprey could do with a victory. Fonac could do with something to deflect attention from the obvious questions that are being asked. Fuentes, though, in the least useful position at the moment. Now they can afford to play cat and mouse. How far behind is Thabalia? This is the question. Elmiger is being forced to leave things out. Hausler in the best position, I would suggest, Sean.
Yes, I think Hausler have it under control here, because as we said, he's the best sprinter, and in this position he's in the moment, I think it's a good one, and I can't see him taking this with much ease.
Well, it's the big man from Comunidad Valenciana who's going for on this side. Martin Elmiger as well. Hausler still has the gap in the middle. Can he get through? He's going to get through the middle. Taking on Martin Elmiger, it's Heinrich Hausler taking the victory. His first big victory, and what a talent this young man is. The Gerolsteiner rider who's been as high as 6th in the sprints against Pataki and Zabel and all the big men. Oh, despair for Juan Manuel Fuentes. Constantino Thabalia tried to get across, but we saw him right on the very edge of our picture as Latassa led out the sprint from the front. And Martin Elmiger went with him, but Hausler was a bit lucky to get through the middle, I think. He squeezed through the middle, but he had it perfectly under control. Pablo Lastras now coming in to take 6th spot from Elias of Relax, and then young Linus Garderman, who really kicked off the whole thing earlier on, and CSC coming over the line. Roberto Heras, well, you wouldn't have expected him to be up there, but he comes over in about 9th place, just about a minute down, so we now have a massive wait for the peloton, and there will be a couple of riders strung out between them. Heinrich Hausler a little bit, well, he's used to barging elbows, I'm sure. And in the end, he just saw the gap, not quite as close as I thought it was, because Latassa had given up by this point and had it well under control, Sean.
Yes, well, as we said, the position was quite good, but he was a little bit, you know, the door was a little bit tight on him for a moment there, and you know, he got through in the last number of metres, but still he was under control, and I think you know, he was, you know, the best one at our favourite, as we said. But Elmiger, you know, threw in a good sprint there, because you know, he stayed for quite a long time on the front before Hustler could just overtake him.
Well, they've run under the 1 kilometre to go banner, and CSC have kept the pace very, very high indeed. They don't want any surprise attacks today. They want any problems whatsoever. Francisco Mancebo is on the far right-hand side of your screen, but CSC are the guys who are leading it out, with the peloton coming into the last 500 metres. Mancebo wants to be 4 back. Sastre will be 3 back. There's no time bonuses to be gained by doing this. They just want to protect their position. Sastre is right in the middle. Mancebo is right behind him. And these guys just going away for position. There's no real advantage here. And I think that's Jimmy Casper on the far right-hand side, going with the yellow shoes. And the Thomas Ziegler, I think, is the other rider in there as well. Mancebo sitting up. He's safe. It's not a problem. Denis Menchov comes through as well. Roberto Heras is through, and Sastre. With that great ride up at La Covadonga. A little less strapping on that leg today, but 15 stitches still in that left knee. 10 along the top of the kneecap, 5 down the side. Tremendous focus by this man. Just trying to get it together. What's going through his mind, Sean, now?
Well, he's just, you know, thinking of the first number of corners. I think you know, he would have rode this course this morning, and he would have, you know, studied all the corners. So I think he'd be thinking about that just as you go off the ramp, the first 3 or 4 corners, to get a picture of them in your mind once again, and just concentrate like for this full time trial now and just get it over it.
8 kilometres to go then for the urged on Francisco Mancebo. That's fantastic. I love this, the huge amount of yelling that goes on from Spanish directors' cars. Good stuff. When you were time trialling, Sean, did you prefer a director to be silent with you, or just cajoling occasionally, or did you have the full Spanish works thrown at you when you're on Spanish teams?
Well, I did not have it like we're hearing from what Manchego was getting here, because it's all the time, you know, encouragement and information, and it's something that I had a plan with my director. When I was with Cass, for example, I wanted, you know, precise information every so often, but just give it a chance and give me a time to be able to, you know, take it in, because when you have somebody throwing that at you all the time, it's difficult to take it all in, and also in another language is a bit more difficult.
Wow, look at that. Fastest time for Roberto Heras. Well, so much for taking it easy. 1 second faster than Denis Menchov. Wow, that's absolutely fascinating. You'd have thought he might just want to take it a little bit easy, Sean, but he's not in the least bit bothered. He's really going for it.
He certainly is, and you know, he's not taking big risks. I'm pretty sure of that in the corners and any bit of downhill. But he's, you know, definitely very strong here and relaxed. I suppose with the 4.5 minutes advantage, he's going into relaxed, and that's the time you put in better performances.
Ruben Plather blocking the new best fastest time, 41:31.3, 23 seconds faster than Victor Hugo Peña. Well, this is a good recovery by Carlos Garcia Quesada, who was 26th fastest through the midway checkpoint. That's a very, very good result for him. But here comes Francisco Mancebo, almost caught him for 2 minutes. A great time by this man. He's going to pass just fall short of Ruben Plather's time, trying to avoid all the litter on the road as he comes through to the finish. But a very, very good time for this man. Second at the moment. Is he going to be? He's going to stay in second as well. 10 seconds down. Oh, just look at that effort from Francisco Mancebo, but he knows it's not going to be enough to dislodge Carlos Sastre. 58 seconds the advantage this morning, and here comes Sastre. Started 2 minutes behind, remember. Now on the outskirts of Alcalá de Henares. Interestingly, we were talking about Antonio Alex, our Spanish commentating colleague. He's commentating with Luis Capistani, who won here in 1985 in a time trial. Swapping sides of the road. We apologise for the breakup of picture. Nothing we can do about that for you. Well, it's been a marvellous Vuelta a España. It's been, it threatened to have been a particularly dull one in the first week, didn't it, Sean? It was not particularly interesting. Certainly speaking from a commentator's point of view, it wasn't a particularly interesting one. Alessandro Patacchi enlivening it in the sprints, but it's turned into something quite epic, especially that long attack, or the attack of Liberty Seguros, and then the lone ride up to the La Covadonga by Roberto Heras. It really made the thing come alive, and the fact that it's been so close underneath Roberto Heras, it's been a wonderful, wonderful Vuelta in the end.
Yes, it certainly has been, and you know, we see that Menchov was riding, you know, quite well and quite a comfortable lead, and it looked like he was going to hold on. So we were just, you know, concerned that it was going to be a bit boring. But I think, you know, Heras and the Liberty Seguros team certainly, you know, changed all of that, and that famous stage that he attacked Menchov, I think that was, you know, made the race and made it more interesting, of course, from there on in. And of course, we have all these riders here, as we see Sastre and Manchego, and those are still fighting for a place in the general, and that's also kept interest high.
Second fastest for Carlos Sastre then. A brave attempt by Francisco Mancebo, but in the end he's actually lost seconds to Carlos Sastre, a handful of them. Well, two very plucky riders, two very big fighting riders. I think a lot of people like Mancebo, people like me like Mancebo anyway, because he always looks tortured, and therefore you always feel he's the underdog. But essentially, and Sastre is a very quiet rider. They're both from the same area of Spain. They come from near Avila, where we were the other day. We're in Castilla-La Mancha again today, by the way. Finishing from, well, starting at Guadalajara. Guadalajara is basically just a provincial capital these days. Used to be a massively fortified Muslim stronghold. But after the Muslims were pushed out from northern Spain, I'm afraid it just went downhill, and really it's just a bit of a provincial backwater now. Nowhere near its glorious past. This man is riding a fabulous, fabulous time trial today. Roberto Heras running through the 26-kilometer checkpoint in fastest time. Ahead of Denis Menchov and Ruben Plather, Carlos Sastre and Mancebo. Really terrific stuff. He's managed to keep his form all the way through the Vuelta, despite an injury that would have put a lot of people off continuing, I have to say. Quiet man from Bejar. Well, here is Denis Menchov coming in to record his time. What will he do? He's really giving it everything. He'd love another stage win to make up for his loss of the overall. He's not going to do it. He's not going to do it. Second for Denis Menchov at the moment. He's going to slip back beyond that as well. Third. Third fastest for Denis Menchov. Sastre recording something faster than he, and still Ruben Plather tops the table. Well, if he takes the victory, Ruben Plather, that will be his best win by far in a major race, well, probably in his career, and to have beaten such good time trialists and good top men and bring another win for Comunica Valenciana. What a great tour they're having.
Yes, certainly he's you know, lived up to his performance in the past time trial in this race, and as we said earlier on, he was, you know, one of the favourites going in here, but you know, would he be able to just pull off the victory? And certainly, you know, it's up to Heras now if he can do that, and Heras of course will be aware that, you know, he's on a very good time, and when you're race leader, the yellow jersey on your shoulders and the final time trial is something that the riders love to be able to, you know, go out there and win that and prove that you are really, you know, the winner of the race, and you know, you're still finishing very strong. And Heras, as you said, you know, finishing amazingly strong in this race, because this time trial from him, it's an extraordinary one.
I guess he's had the advantage in the last couple of days of being able to hang back and let other people do the attacks. He's had all his team around him to shelter him from any wind, to keep him out of trouble. Had a little bit of time to almost take a breather, if you can, in a Grand Tour, if that makes any sense at all. Wearing this gold jersey for another day today. Complete gold skin suit today. Wasn't always gold. It's been orange in its past in the Vuelta España. It's been white with a red band on it. Let's just see. He's going to do it, Sean.
Yes, he's going to take it.
He's going to do it by some margin, I would think, by about 10 to 12 seconds, I would say, probably. What a fantastic ride by this man. Really just pulled it out of nowhere. I did not expect this at all, Sean. Ooh, is he going to take it, though? Oh! Oh, he isn't! Oh, commentator's kiss of death strikes again. I've done it again, haven't I? Second fastest for Roberto Heras. My word, 0.9 of a second outside of Ruben Plather's time. Well, you can't be disappointed with that, surely. Ruben Plather will be ecstatic.
Yes, he certainly will. But Heras, of course, you know, after doing such a performance right through the time trial, just losing it by that much, and as I said, you know, as race leader, he would love to come out of this one winning the time trial, because for him to do that, it would be an unbelievable performance. And that ride, like, it's a fabulous one, and just to lose it by that much, you know, Heras will be just, you know, a little bit.
Well, Sean was just saying while we were away, this chap should ride another day. He's a long way, he's a long way behind everybody, isn't he, Vuelta now, Sean?
Yes, he certainly is. Well, he's third from the bottom of the classement, 125th in the general at 4 hours and 41 seconds. So he's probably finishing this race with a little bit of suntan, a lot of the riders, because he's been out there for a stage longer.
He certainly has. Last man in the general classification, by the way, is Genet, I think. The rider from Bouygues Telecom. Well, it was pretty active earlier on in terms of sprinting, and we've talked a lot over the last 21 days about the wonderful achievement of Roberto Heras, one of the Gerolsteiner riders, going away. Is that Thomas Ziegler again? Well, this is one of the hills you will be seeing in the World Championships. It's a nice surface road as well, pretty wide. But Vaugrenard now going backwards again. Well, he's going to end up at the back It's been very active all the way through today, mainly because of the sprints, intermediate sprints. You'll forgive us talking and not about Roberto Heras for a little bit, because there's still a battle going on, and that's for the points. Roberto Heras does feature in that. He is at the top of the table. Roberto Heras this morning leading the classification in the points. And only one man really capable of overhauling him. I mean, Denis Menchov could have a go if he wanted to. 9 kilometers to go. 169 points Roberto Heras had in the points competition this morning. Alessandro Petacchi, lying third, had 132 points. Well, if you do the calculations, there are 3 sprints today, each worth 4 points. That's 12 and 25 for a victory. That would mean that if Alessandro Petacchi won everything today, he would end up level on points with Roberto Heras. And there's, in that sort of situation, they then count how many stage victories in the first place each member has had. Roberto Heras, of course, has had 2 individual stage victories. Alessandro Petacchi has had 4. So he would take the points competition should he win the sprint into the finish at Madrid today. Well, I can tell you, Alessandro Petacchi has won all 3 intermediate sprints so far, so he is definitely going for it. This is one way to warm himself up for the World Championship. He'll maybe get a little bit of extra information about what it's like to ride with a group of fast-moving riders on this course. I'm surprised he's gone all the way through to Madrid, Alessandro Petacchi, Sean.
Yes, I think that was, you know, we're thinking into the second week of the tour, how many more days would he go on for, but he's went all the way, and as you said, it would be nice to ride around most of the circuit for the World Championship, which is next Sunday, a week from today, and he will get a feel for it, what it's like, what the hills are like, especially, I suppose, for him. That'll be the most important thing, and he's definitely riding for the points classement here, because, as you said, he's taking, you know, the 3 hot spots already. The only disadvantage, of course, today, he hasn't many teammates. There's quite a number of teammates out. There's 4 missing, so he's just got, you know, Baldato, Bernucci, Ungarato and Sanchez Pimente for the sprint, so it's a little bit difficult for him. They have to calculate a lot here that they don't give too much of an effort earlier on, because he hasn't all the lead outmen that he had in the earlier part of this race. Well,
as far when they get to the final line, you'll have to discount Julian Sanchez Pimentia, because he's the climber, he's the token climber. So Ongarato, Bernucci and Baldato will be the guys doing the work for him. Garcia Costa and Costa on the front, and it was Thomas Ziegler coming out. Well, let's just have a look at what happened in the sprints this morning. 32.8 kilometers for the first sprint. Petacchi took the first spot. That gives him 4 points. Michele Scarponi of Liberty Seguros took the 2 points for second place, which just goes to show that they were still concerned about it, Sean. Even when Roberto Heras has the overall in the bag, Scarponi tried to outsprint Petacchi and take those points away from him. No chance against Petacchi, I don't think. Interestingly, though, Charlie Vegelius, we've not seen a thing of Charlie Vegelius at all. The Englishman riding for Liquigas took the last spot, and we've noticed just before we came on air, Charlie Vegelius was doing an awful lot of work on the front, helping Fassa Mortolo bring a few things together. So obviously Vegelius knows which side is bread buttered as far as living in Italy as a professional is concerned, and he's giving them a little bit of a hand today. Alessandro Petacchi took the second sprint at Fuenlabrada at 69.7 kilometers, and unsurprisingly, Luis Pasamontes and Joseph Joupre, both of Fuenlabrada Relax, took second and third places. It's where they're based, it's where the Relax squad are based, and there were thousands of people out on the side of the road cheering them up. And then just before we came on air, in fact, at 101.7 kilometers, the last of the intermediate sprints, Petacchi took that from Baldato and Ongarato, both teammates, of course. So really going for it today, just shutting down all opposition however they needed to do that, with the help of a couple of other teams coming to the front as well and giving them a hand. Garcia Costa looking over his shoulder. He's now being eaten up. Another little counter-attack going off the front. Boccherov and Luis Pasamontes launched the counter-attacks. About 25 kilometers ago, Pasamontes from Relax and the Boccherov from Credit Agricole. They were out for quite a while, Sean, but they've been well controlled by the peloton, these little counter-attacks, haven't they?
Yes, they definitely have. We've seen, they were the Butcherov and Pasamontes. They were never allowed any more than about 15 seconds, and we could always see somebody from Faso riding in the front, just keeping the tempo and just leave them hang out there. And that's what they're going to do. Just not get too carried away when the attacks go and start closing down immediately. Because number one, I suppose the riders they have left, they have many, so they will have to calculate this one well and not do too much, and to be able to take Pataki into the final couple of 100 metres in this sprint. So I think it's going to be very difficult for anybody to get away. Even Garcia Costa, we see him there being pulled back once again, and I don't think this, it's going to be his day to take it. He had his chance, I suppose, down to in Avila, where he, got very close to win the stage. But today, I think is going to be down to the sprinters once again.
I would suggest, Sean, that perhaps we wouldn't see too much action by Eric Zabel today, because he will be a teammate next year of Alessandro Pataki. I don't think he'd want to annoy his new teammate Pataki in this new joint Italian-German squad by taking a victory today and denying Alessandro Pataki some sprint points. I don't think that would be a good idea, do you?
No, I don't think it would be the idea, but I think Pataki will be up there if it does, and it looks like it will come down to a sprint, as we see Vicioso here trying to break up the train from the Passaportolo riders. Of course, Vicioso, a teammate of Heras, and they're trying to cause problems for them to make them work, and just to break things up and see would they break up the Faso train or what's left of the train. But I don't think Zabel will sprint against Pataki if it's for the win, but he's going to be up there and he's going to be hanging around in the top 10 riders, the top 5 riders in the last kilometre, 2 kilometres, and if Pataki is not going to take it, well then Zabel would have a go. But I don't think if there was a straight out sprint he would overtake him, because as you said, all rumours and the information we're getting, it seems that he's going to join Pataki for next year.
It does indeed. In fact, there's going to be a press conference next Friday in Madrid during the World Championships by this new German stroke Italian team, to tell people exactly what is going on, because there have been rumours flying around all over the place. Vicioso then just trying to break things up a little bit. That's not going to get very far, I don't think. He's trying that. He's a clever rider, Vicioso.
And of course, I think Heras, he would love to take this points jersey, because it's not often he get the opportunity, and would like to, to have it on his palmarès. And getting so close is not often he do that. And of course, yesterday so close in that time trial. If he could have pulled that one yesterday, well then he would have, be secure of the jersey.
Well, if you were in Roberto Heras' position, who would you be talking to in the peloton, saying, "Come on, guys, give us a hand"?
Well, I suppose it's difficult. Some of the Spanish teams, I suppose, they will talk to, but what can you do here? You see, on the flat, we see Vicioso there going away like this. It caused a little bit more pressure on the Passaportolo riders, but there's always riders to ride, as we see here now. The T-Mobile riders start to come to the front, and when you get this stage 3Ks to go, everybody's going to be flushing around the front, and it's impossible for anybody to get away. Of course, Heras to get up in this sprint, that will be his next target, and try and stay up there, but he's not going to take any major risks in case of a crash or something in the final kilometre or 2 kilometres. But I think he might just try and take some points here.
I think he might just try and take some points here, but of course, and try and deny Pataki the opportunity of winning. Pataki has to win the sprint to win the jersey. There's no other way around it. If he doesn't win it, the sprint, he doesn't take the jersey.
Well, I don't think Heras can do a lot against Pataki when it comes to this stage of the race, because
certainly not. But there might be somebody else who could do something against Pataki. Is the thing.
Yeah. So I think Heras, of course, as I said, try and get up there on the sprint, and it's going to be difficult for him on this sort of one dead flat finish, and the corner before the finish, of course, it's going to be difficult for position for him. He's not a good rider on that. If it was an uphill finish, well then he would have a great chance of getting up in the places.
Well, there was a little bit of a tumble about 20 kilometres ago. A number of riders going down right at the very back. 2 kilometres to go. Victor Hugo Peña was a Phonak rider who hit the deck. Everybody's back up, by the way. Just Marco Velo, who withdrew yesterday. And that'll be, I suppose, a tiny bit of a worry for Alessandro Pataki. Velo, the last man off the train, but it's really beginning to motor now. Remember, Alessandro Pataki has to win this sprint in order to take the points jersey. And the liquid gas guys have been up the front. We've got some De Vitamon Lotto guys in there as well. Leon van Bon, is the guy on the front now. I'm sorry about the picture breakup. Let's hope we get it back in time for the last kilometre, because they're coming up very, very quickly indeed now. Still looks like Van Bon on the front to me. Well, surprising to see Van Bon up there, but he does work hard on the lead out. Here we go. There's a whole load of Giovanni Lombardi is in there at the front of the Fassa boys as well. They're all looking around to see where everybody is. Oh, we're under the 1 kilometre banner. We didn't get to see that. There's about 600 metres to go then. He's going to have to take it out very, very early. They're going to weave across the road. They get this big, big right sweep now. Where is Pataki? Well, he's got the liquid. Oh, look at that. That's a terrible corner to have to get round if you're wide across the road. We've got one liquid gas rider, I think, out ahead. This is going to not play into Alessandro Pataki's hands at all. Well, what was I saying about liquid gas? Maybe I'm just talking absolute rubbish as per usual. Looking behind. Pataki's train are going to have to eat this man up. He's not giving it full gas, though, the liquid gas guy, I don't think. He's looking behind, he's looking behind. Pataki has to win this sprint to win the points jersey. He's sat up. He's sat up. Has he? Where is Pataki? He's just behind there. There he goes, coming around the outside. Oh, with Eric Zabel right next to him. He's still going to have to take it, but I think there's a little bit of show there at the end. Sean, he looked across to, that was a very confusing finish. I'm terribly sorry. He looks across to Eric Zabel. I thought he'd sat up for a minute, but I think it was probably Ongarato who'd sat up behind him. I couldn't see him obscured. That was a very messy finish as far as the sprinters finish goes, Sean.
Yes, well, it was, and the liquid gas rider, he looked like that he wasn't really going anywhere, but it looked like Wegelis actually.
Yeah.
But he was going very strong, because we see they were sprinting behind and not coming back, and we see Pataki, he's going at full and taking a bit of time to come to him. But Zabel, as we see here, again, I don't know if he would be able to come by him. He looked like that he just slowed up a little bit, and as we talked about, of course, joining teams next year.